All right, True North politics time on this Monday. Stories we're following closely from the world of Canadian politics, starting today with the NDP debate, the first one that took place over the weekend on Sunday. Jobs, pipelines, climate change were front and center on Sunday as the four candidates, only four in this race, not 14 like the Conservatives, they're vying to become the next leader to take over for Tom Mulcair. This is the first of many debates. A leader will be chosen come the fall. Let's bring in our panel here. In Ottawa, we've got Liberal commentator Tim Barber standing by. In Toronto, we're joined by Conservative commentator, Toronto Sun editor-in-chief extraordinaire Adrienne Batra. And in Regina, we've got NDP commentator Sally Housser. Sally, this is your party. Therefore, we are going to start with you. What did you see? What resonated with you? And your take on the first debate?
Well, I think my take or what resonated was the vast contrast between the tone and the collegialness and obviously the disagreement, despite it being a debate, but compare that with the Conservative leadership race. And it's funny you say only four people, and there's been a couple of people, well, how come there's only four people in the race? That's actually a pretty normal amount, I think, of people in a leadership race. Even the last one we started with 9, and that was, in terms of organizing debates and what complicated in itself. So I can only imagine the difficulties that the Conservatives are dealing with. But outside of that, I think the debates are designed. This one was for the candidates to be able to introduce themselves to the public, to people watching, to the membership, to lay out kind of their key places where they're going. And I think we saw that as much as there wasn't a lot of argument, I think there were differences in opinions, certainly about whether you want to be the moral conscience of the party or whether you want to, sign up more people, broaden the tent and win. There was a little bit of disagreement, certainly Peter Julian on the more anti-pipeline, no new development in that respect, and Charlie Angus on how do we get to a renewable energy economy, resource in terms of moving away from that resource-based economy, but still protect workers. So I think we saw a bit of that, but as you move forward, you'll see the debates designed to create a little more differentiation between the candidates.
All right, so we've got Charlie Angus, we've got Peter Julian, we've got Nikki Ashton, and we've got Guy Caron as well in the race. Your take, Adrienne Batra, what did you think?
Well, I don't necessarily disagree with much of what my NDP friend has said, because part of what I think is important is they had to do this because they do have to introduce people to introduce themselves to Canadians because no one knows who they are. And in fairness to many of them, yes, they've been around the NDP politics and that stage for some time, but these aren't household names. And I'm not saying that they are on the Conservative side either, save for maybe one or two. But it does make it far easier in this format than it certainly does for the Conservatives. And 14 people, that's going to get pared down as they move forward. But, there's one name out there that still people are talking about that they want to see in this race. And that, of course, is the NDP member of provincial parliament, Jagmeet Singh. I think that there's a lot of people that are sort of waiting for him to get in, bring in some more excitement and energy to this. But look, I mean, you've got four people on the stage who are all vying to be the leader of the third party and maybe get to the success that Jack Layton had. They're trying to get progressives back away from liberals, and they've each got their own sort of message, but it's sort of basically the same old from the NDP. We are in favor of, social justice, and that's great and important, but who's going to pay for it? We don't want new development because we're anti-pipeline, so they got to give themselves, a little bit more space and some room to breathe. They've got June to do that if someone new comes in the race, and then a few more months to show Canadians what they've got.
Well, there was a lot of references to Layton's legacy during the debate, and I want to bring Tim into the conversation because, it's difficult perhaps for the NDP to punch through all the noise going on. You have everything happening south of the border. Justin Trudeau in our country takes up a lot of political oxygen. The Conservatives are in a race as well with 14 candidates, some of them quite outspoken as well. And then you have the NDP, Tim.
Well, I think as a general rule, as both my colleagues have suggested, 4 is probably better than 14. That's kind of a general rule in these debates. It's certainly more manageable. What I found really interesting in watching it yesterday afternoon, it was Sunday afternoon, by the way, on a really cold day here in March. was the rifts between urban, rural, pro-resource development, anti-resource development, renewable economy. That I found really interesting. And I also found no one leaping to support LEAP manifesto. And I think that's going to be a really interesting contrast once the rank and file get involved. And the last piece is, as Adrienne was just suggesting, Jagmeet Singh could be a bit of a game changer in terms of getting attention. But overall, I thought it was a really good lineup of a variety of people, different perspectives. I thought it was a pretty solid first outing.
All right, we'll keep our eye on that. Another big story that I want to get the three of you to weigh in on involves Senator Don Meredith. This is a senator appointed by Stephen Harper back in 2010, a Pentecostal minister, social conservative from the Greater Toronto area, under fire over a relationship he had with a teenage girl. And the Ethics Committee in the Senate has said that he should leave. A number of senators saying he should leave. They want him to resign. The latest, Quebec Senator Andre Pratt, who wrote a letter today saying, you know, for the sake of the institution, you have to go, do what is right, and go. Of course, we all know there is not much of a mechanism for that to actually happen unless the senator chooses to actually step aside of his own accord. Adrienne, your read on this, the damage it will do to the Senate, and what do you think should happen to Meredith?
I don't even know if it's possible for Canadians to think less of our Senate, regardless of, you know, Don Meredith resigning or not. Now, with that said, I do think that what he has done is egregious, and I don't think that the average person that has even followed the story, and by the way, I don't think that there are a lot of people that know this, but regardless, I think for his own moral compass, for whatever shred of decency is left in that so-called upper chamber of sober second thought, he should step aside. Look, when Prime Minister Harper at the time was looking to appoint Senator Meredith, he looked good on paper. There's certain things that he chose to do in his personal life that, you know, we may all find questionable. I certainly know I do. But, you know, the calls and the anger and the frustration from his Senate colleagues to try to save some decency left in the Senate is a bit interesting, because I think it's so in tatters already. But here's my so-called prediction. I suspect that Senator Meredith will be out of the upper chamber by the end of the week.
Tim Barber, your take.
That would be fantastic. It would really help the Senate's reputation. People forgot that this happened, you know, when it first broke 2 years ago. It was quite embarrassing then. I don't know what's taken so long, because I can't think of another public institution where this kind of behavior would be tolerated. And Senator Meredith, or if he was a high school principal or a teacher, it is shocking. And I would like to echo what Peter Harder said yesterday on question period. And I would like to echo what Senator Pratt said in his open letter today, which is, for the good of the chamber, he has to resign. There's no one's rushing to his defense, put it that way.
Last word to you, Sally Housser.
Obviously, yeah, you're not going to find disagreement from me about him needing to resign, but I just don't think he will. I think obviously the type of narcissist, you know, and the type of person with a moral compass that allows him to engage in this type of behavior to begin with, and clearly the fact that he hasn't resigned up until now, that this has come out with people calling for him. And what we do see is you don't really have a mechanism in the Senate. Unfortunately, we've seen this in recent years on different issues. When somebody should go, there really isn't a way to get them out of there. So I would hope that, you know, some form of dignity would prevail, but I'm not entirely sure it will. And then we'll see how the Senate has to deal with it if he refuses to resign.
Happy to have all three of you on today with us. Happy Monday as well. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks so
Thank you,
much.
Todd.
Adrienne, Sally, and Tim joining us.